Good afternoon and good evening. We want to welcome you here to this amazing experience you're about to have. My name is Jay, and I am your StriveScan facilitator for the evening. And we just want to welcome you to the National Catholic College Admission Association and Jesuit Education Tour Virtual College Fair. A big mouthful, but a lot of great information that you're going to get tonight here. I am just the facilitator, and I'm going to be here for just one more minute, giving you some housekeeping items, and then I will pass it along to our real all-stars. So the first thing I want to let you know is that your microphone, your video, all of that is completely off. Myself and the panelists cannot see or hear you, but we would love to engage with you. So if you are out there, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask questions to our presenters really at any time, and they will hopefully get to them. Also know that there are more sessions happening after this one, and this is being recorded. So unfortunately, if you have to step away for any reason, that's totally fine. You can find this recording later at strivescan.com/NCCAA. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and ask our presenters to come back up and introduce themselves, and we will get started.
Hello, I'm Steve Knights from Lemoyne College in Syracuse, New York.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ruben Rodriguez from College of the Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lindsay Hansen, and I am from Aquinas College in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And my name is Aaron Lloyd, and I am from the University of St. Francis in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Thank you.
Hello, our topic here, thank you, Lindsay. Our topic here is attending college in a small metropolitan area. To tell you the truth, this is one of my favorite things to talk about in regard to my college, Lemoyne College, because Lemoyne is located in Syracuse, New York, one of the major metropolitan areas in New York, in central New York. And as I did a little bit of research on this before we got started, I went to the web and looked at some of the best college towns. And according to bestcollegereview.org, some of the best college towns are in small metropolitan areas. So in this ranking, Boulder, Colorado was #1, and they're the 155th largest metropolitan area in the country. Ann Arbor, Michigan is #2, and that's the 148th largest metropolitan area. Coming in at #3 was Madison, Wisconsin, number 87 in metropolitan area. For example, Lemoyne, which is in Syracuse, New York, Syracuse is the 184th largest metropolitan area. So that we're kind of in the middle of small town and large city. And this offers students that attend a college in a metropolitan area many different opportunities in regard to expanding and enhancing their college experience. Lemoyne and Syracuse has over 24 different colleges and universities in central New York area. So we have big university like Syracuse University, Lemoyne and Colgate are mid-sized schools. Small colleges like Cazenovia College and Wells College, specialized colleges, and a variety of and other community colleges. So this really gives central New York, a small metropolitan area, a lot of vibrancy. And I think of, you've heard the term college town. Well, I think of a small metropolitan area often can be a college city, because so many of the small metropolitan areas are not just one college, but many different colleges with a variety of different opportunities and missions and focus. And in regard to Catholic colleges, as we're with the Catholic College Admission Association here tonight, Catholic colleges are often very much a part of a metropolitan area because of their histories and tradition. And regarding to that, one of the things that I think is really a special opportunity for students as they are in a metropolitan area, and again, in a smaller metropolitan area, are service opportunities. Using your skills and talents and abilities in the Catholic tradition is probably one of the highest callings that you can have. And that the idea of service opportunities, many schools are very actively engaged with their communities. So the idea of ensuring service, reflection, and active faith formation are all integral parts of a college experience in many different ways. So whether it's working with homeless shelters, teaching school-age children, working with other special interest programs, faith-based as well as community-based, really wonderful opportunities to really enhance your academic experiences. Something you can put on your resume when you're all done, which is really a nice opportunity. But as a Lemoyne, as a Jesuits college, we talk about developing the entire person. And so often the idea of developing skills outside of your career, but maybe that will be able to be used in your career, perhaps in a human service area, but if you go into business and learning to meet with people and talk with people from other cultures is really important. So the service opportunities, I think, in a small metropolitan area is really an exciting opportunity for students. Another opportunity that I like to talk about, especially as we talk about a small metropolitan area, are the opportunities for internships and practical experiences. Again, in a small metro area, and as I mentioned in Syracuse, we have about 24 different colleges and universities. These universities are really a big deal in a small college. A term I like to say is, you can be a big fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond. Who makes a bigger splash? And being in a smaller pond, so many times the business leaders, community leaders are graduates of the colleges that are in the local area. So they're going to be very interested in supporting students with the opportunity to enhance their academic backgrounds with internships at major corporations. So Lemoyne and Syracuse has Lockheed Martin, Bristol Myers Squibb, Upstate University Health System, Carrier Corporation. So Fortune 500 companies, but they're looking for college students, and the opportunities are really tremendous with the internships. Sometimes it's a shadowing experience. Oftentimes alumni, especially alumni, are very actively involved with the colleges in the local area. So maybe it's in the idea of doing practice job interviews, or talking to classes about their profession and their learning, their journey in their careers. So the practical applications are really tremendous for students in a small metropolitan area. My daughter went to Lemoyne College in Syracuse, and she did 2 internships that really enhanced her experiences and helped to define her interest. And by doing those internships, that she changed the focus of her academic experience. And actually the internships that she participated in were monitored supervised by graduates of the colleges in the central New York area. So she was really able to take some of those skills, and it was really easy access for getting in and around a city, a small city, whether she was driving or taking public transportation. A lot of really good offerings that are available for students in that regard. And when we talk about transportation, again, small metro areas typically have good bus systems. certainly other ideas of getting around town are the Ubers and fares like that. But many of the small metro areas like Syracuse has an international airport or an Amtrak station, as well as major interstate highways. So it's really easy to get to and be around a small metropolitan area. So those were two areas I thought were really important to discuss. And now we have Ruben. We'll talk a little bit more about other areas.
Thank you, Steve. I'm kind of continuing in that kind of theme in that range. One thing that I think is a benefit of attending a college in a small metropolitan area is the idea of social experiences. Because here at Holy Cross, we don't want our students just stay in Holy Cross and kind of stay in the academic bubble and the community bubble, but we want them to go out into the community. We want them to engage with the local businesses, the restaurants, the city leaders and stuff like that. So we really don't want you to just to be a Holy Cross student, but also a Worcester resident. And what I've seen in my experience, because I graduated from Holy Cross in 2020, now I work in admissions, is that Holy Cross students do view themselves as Worcester residents. So it kind of continuing this, I think a big part of it too is kind of what Steve was saying, is that our central location. I mean, speaking more about Worcester and Holy Cross, again, we're only an hour from Boston, 2.5 hours from New York City. So that central location is really easy to kind of have transportation systems in our school to get our students out into the community, whether it's transportation to certain restaurants, places in Worcester, whether that's transportation to cities in Boston and New York. We provide these transportation systems on a weekend basis so that all of our students can kind of get out and kind of outside of the campus community and into these other cities, into these other areas. So that I think that's a huge benefit of kind of attending a college in a small area, because again, we aren't too far from all these other bigger cities. But again, we do have a lot of opportunities in Worcester. But again, if you are looking for something outside of Worcester, I know Holy Cross and other institutions do provide those transportation systems and infrastructure to get you students out there as well. But like I said, another thing too is that kind of also Steve's main point, specifically with Holy Cross and Worcester, Worcester has 12 other colleges and universities, right? And, Worcester is the second largest city in New England, but a lot of these colleges and universities have strong partnerships and strong ties. So kind of having a lot of colleges in this small area, we have this thing called the Worcester Consortium, where we all, where a Holy Cross student could take courses at any other Worcester college or university for free. I mean, every school, we all have our individual processes, but again, we all have that collaborative partnership, and that we want our students to engage with the other institutions and the other higher education systems in and around Worcester. So again, a Holy Cross student can take classes in Assumption, Clark University, Worcester State, WPI. And again, I think it's because of this idea of having a bunch of colleges in this small environment that, again, we've created these partnerships over decades and decades that, again, there's the trust there. We know that our students are going to receive high-class education in these other institutions. And again, all these institutions provide transportation. So again, if a Holy Cross student wants to take class in Assumption, we provide transportation to get there. Because again, we're not in that big of a city. Again, the transportation is extremely feasible compared to being in a larger city where there's more traffic, where again, going from one end to another end might take you 45 minutes to an hour. Again, we don't mind having that transportation on our campus where it might bring a student only 10 minutes or so. But that's a great benefit in regards to being in that environment where there's a bunch of other colleges in a smaller city. Another thing too, I think it's just having fun. Oftentimes on the road, in a lot of my info sessions and interviews, I always get asked, well, what is there to do outside of the college campus? Well, what is there to do outside in the city? And I think kind of, there is still a lot of things that are happening in a place like Worcester, but also in a bunch of other smaller cities across the United States. But speaking specifically about Worcester, I mean, there's art museums, like I mentioned, there's 12 other college universities, there's great restaurants. Worcester has an amazing food scene. There's a street called Shrewsbury Street where there has, I think, over 50 restaurants, no kidding, on this one long street. Again, there's the DCU concert hall, there's shopping centers and stuff like that. But a really new development is that the Red Sox minor league team just moved into Worcester. And this is a great thing that we're trying to provide. And again, for every home game, we're providing transportation for students to get to these games, because we really want students to be interacting in Worcester and with all the stuff that's happening. And again, I think we can have that we can have those opportunities again, because we are in that smaller city where there's a lot of growth development happening. And again, I think a lot of this comes back down to, again, it might only take you 25 minutes to get across from Worcester. There's not as much traffic and congestion as compared to a city like Boston, other, these huge cities. So again, we can provide these transportations to get to a Woo Sox game, to get to Shrewsbury Street, to get to these other universities, to get to Boston. We can provide all of that because of our central location, which is in Worcester. And again, and lastly, I think there's this trend that's happening across the United States. And I can kind of give an example with Boston and Worcester, but I think this is a universal trend. But you're really seeing a lot of people moving from larger cities to smaller cities. And I think COVID has kind of caused, has kind of awakened some things. I think affordability, right? So I think you're seeing a lot of people kind of leaving these larger cities and moving to smaller cities. And actually, Worcester was ranked in the top 10 growing cities in the United States this past year. And with what you're seeing with all this with this trend of people moving from the larger cities to the smaller cities, you're seeing the city of Worcester being more intentional with sort of revitalizing downtown, with having these economic development plans, with kind of building up kind of the areas where there's restaurants, residential spaces, restaurants, retail spaces. You're seeing a lot of development in Worcester, but I think that is a trend that's happening across the entire United States. So I think, again, there is a lot of development happening in Worcester. I think there's a lot of factors growing into that, but I think Worcester is going to be, not just Worcester, a lot of other smaller cities are going to look completely different 5, 10, 15 years down the road. But what's great is that our students, all the students in the city will be able to take advantage of what the cities are putting forth. And again, and these are all kind of benefits that come with kind of going to a school in an area, in a smaller city. But in kind of wrapping things up, I really do think is kind of having a central location, being close to a lot of things. A lot of these smaller cities growing because a lot of just things that are happening across the United States. So I think kind of going to these smaller cities, you can take advantage of the things that are growing in a place like Worcester, but you're also not too far from a place like Boston. I mean, if you want to do a summer internship, if you want to do something, go somewhere once, twice a week, you have those opportunities to do that because, again, that central location. And I can pass the floor off to Lindsay or Aaron.
Yeah, I think Aaron and I are going to chat a little bit about also the benefit of liberal arts kind of experiences in a bigger city. I know personally I am an alum of Aquinas, and one thing that I changed my major 3 times, and I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to study when I graduated from high school. So it was such a benefit for me to be able to have this liberal arts experience, and to touch on Steve and what Steve and Ruben said too, to have this liberal arts experience, to have a really well-rounded education, to have science classes and math classes and art classes, and to explore a lot of different options, but then to be in a city where I could go off campus and experience, maybe this particular area that I'm interested in and get an internship in that particular area that I'm interested in, was huge. To maybe even feel like, to even see if maybe that's what I didn't want, because sometimes finding out what you don't want is a lot easier than finding out what you do want in a college experience. So to be able to have, on campus, this liberal arts experience, and to have all of these different general education courses that you're taking, while also being, at least for us at Aquinas, I mean, we have a average class size of 16 students, where your faculty and your professors are really going to get to know you. But then we're in the second biggest city in Michigan, Grand Rapids, and we're 2 miles down the road from it. So we have so many resources for our students, not only on campus but off campus as well. And when your professors, when you go to a smaller school and your professors actually get to know you and your interests, they have resources off campus because they have experiences in that area that you're living in. Specifically, at Aquinas, I ended up graduating with a double major in theater and community leadership. So, I was able to get internships at theaters because of my professor introduced me to other people he knew in the Grand Rapids area. So there's so many benefits to having like that small one-on-one experience at a liberal arts school within a bigger city that has a lot of opportunities, like Ruben and Steve kind of touched on. Because like I said, when you have the when you have those resources, sometimes it's about who you know, and not, it's definitely still about what you know, but a lot of the time getting your foot in the door is it's about who you know. And if you can have that one-on-one connection, those experiences on campus with your professors, then they're able to kind of give you the tools to advocate for yourself off campus is just huge. And I'm sure, Aaron, you can attest to that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Being another small liberal arts university, I'm going to probably reiterate a lot of what Lindsay just kind of said, because we are also in the second biggest city in Indiana. We are also 2 miles outside of of our downtown area. So basically, we're very, very similar to Aquinas. So, but yeah, being a liberal arts student means that you're basically going to get a more well-rounded education, which is very, very important. You're be able to stray off that path. If you are a marketing student, you might want to take some graphic design classes. You can also job shadow in a lot of our graphic design studios that we have in Fort Wayne. What's super nice is that a lot of the professors are also working professionals within their field, within the city of Fort Wayne. If you go downtown in Fort Wayne, Indiana, then a lot of the murals that are painted on the walls, on the buildings, are done by our art professors. A lot of our art professors also own their own businesses, so they actually contract a lot of our students. So like Lindsay said, like, knowing these people, getting your foot in the door is kind of that first step to kind of preparing yourself for that next step after graduation. But yeah, like our marketing students, they actually are contracted by a lot of businesses in Fort Wayne to actually create marketing plans for them that they actually utilize and use within their own businesses. So you're kind of learning from getting those real world experiences while you're a student on campus because of the small atmosphere, because of the well-known name of the University of St. Francis in like Fort Wayne. Like these small schools are very, very well known because they produce students who don't have that deer in the headlight kind of look because of the real world experiences that they are put in while they are students on that specific campus. But yeah, kind of go off of what everybody else said. Going to a school in a small metropolitan area is incredible. Like, little insider tip, I didn't go to the University of St. Francis. I didn't go to a school in a small metropolitan area. I went to a school that's very, very on brand with Indiana. My school is literally surrounded by cornfields with not a grocery store to go to within 20 miles. I had to go to the next city over just to go to Walmart to go grocery shopping. So going to a school in a small metropolitan area has its advantages. It has absolutely all the advantages in the world because I didn't have these career opportunities. I didn't have these real world experiences while I was a student in my undergrad. So going to school at the University of St. Francis or at Aquinas or the College of Holy Cross or at Lemoyne, like they have all kind of mentioned it in this session so far, but there's always something to do in the area. Like Fort Wayne has 4 professional sports teams that they can utilize, that they have partnerships with, whether it be for job internships, for job shadowing, for professional experience after graduation, or just for something to do on the weekend or on a night, just something to get off campus. But what's also nice, and I know that this is the same for a lot of the universities that are in this session right now, is that if you did want to get away from the commotion, if you did want to stray away from downtown, your campus is kind of like that safe space, that bubble that kind of closes off the outside world and kind of lets you do your own thing, experience your own life as a college student, but also more importantly, study for your classes as well. But there are so many opportunities that you can have going to school in a small metropolitan area that you won't get in like a smaller school surrounded by cornfields like I experienced. So I don't know, like Lindsay, I don't know if you have much to add too, so.
Yeah, no, I always I always tell students, I personally feel like you have 2 big battles to tackle in this whole college process. Wherever you're at in the process, I think there are 2 main things that we need to think about. And the first thing is, what environment do we want on campus? And that means, big, small, but I think that means campus size too, not just class. Are you going to be okay if it takes you 20 minutes to walk from one end of campus to the other? It's a 20-minute bus ride, or are you going to be okay with something like that? And I think the second battle to tackle is to really figure out what environment you want off campus, because I think, like Stephen Rubin touched on, you kind of inherently become a part of whatever community you live in. And it was something that was a huge surprise to me. I grew up in a tiny little beach town, and so Grand Rapids to me was like this big city, and it was a little bit of a shock to move to kind of a bigger city because I lived in a beach town, but I also lived kind of in the country in a beach town. And so like I said, you have to figure out what you want off campus, because that's just as important. Are you going to be okay if you have like, I'll mention them, like a DePaul University that's like downtown Chicago, where Chicago is inherently built into to the campus. I don't know how many times I've driven in Chicago and all of a sudden I'm on DePaul's campus. I do not know how it happened and I'm just there. And, do you want that? Is that something you want? Or, like you went to, Aaron, do you want your college to be all that's really going on in that town? That's totally fine too. This is all about finding your right fit. And I always tell students, I knew two big things about myself when I was looking at schools. I was not going to do well in a classroom of 300 people where I had to take a pop quiz with a remote control. I literally had friends who had that experience, and I kept saying, like, good for you, not for me. And that's okay. This is about your fit in your college experience. And the second thing I knew about myself is I was not going to do well in the middle of nowhere where I had to drive an hour to go do anything off campus. And mostly because in Michigan, we have a reputation to uphold. We have a lot of snow, right? Maybe not as much for you, Steve, in New York, but you get a lot of snow. And so, I couldn't imagine having to go to my internship or job shadow opportunity and it's a snowstorm. And, maybe I always tell students, like, you might have gotten a snow day, but your big kid internship that you have doesn't get snow days. Like, no one tells you that after you graduate, the big job you get doesn't necessarily have snow days unless you work in higher education, right? Which is always nice. But that's something, those are things to think about. And I think another thing too is the alumni base you get at a smaller school is just different, I have found, than at a bigger institution. And don't get me wrong, I mean, my brother's an alum of Notre Dame, and like that alumni base is huge and ginormous, and that's amazing. But there is just something about an alumni base at a smaller institution that is really, really special, because you have this like kindred spirit of you, like that faculty member was probably there when they were there, because faculty members stay longer at those institutions. And so it is really great to have just like a very close, tight-knit alumni base as well when you go to a small school. And 9 times out of 10, I have personally found a lot of alums stick around at the town that they went to, especially, I would assume, in all of the towns that we're talking about on this panel. I know specifically at Aquinas, the West Michigan alumni base from Aquinas is ginormous. I mean, I was raised by 2 alums from Aquinas. So it's where they met and all that cute stuff. So that's what's so great, is that there's just something awesome about an alumni base at a smaller school, and also sticking around in the town that school went to as well. I don't know if anyone wants to add any more.
Well, one other thing about going to a school in a small metropolitan area is the cultural difference, the cultural experience that you kind of get as well. So in Fort Wayne, like, we have a large population of people from Thailand, people from Burma. Like, we have a large Burmese population that you're going to get to kind of experience as well within the city of Fort Wayne, but also on the main campus too. So the cultural background, like, where I didn't get much cultural background going to my small school surrounded by cornfields. So kind of transitioning from where I grew up to where I went to college to where I work now, it is a large change, and it is a big difference, and it opens your eyes a lot more to the different opportunities that are around you too.
I thought one of the survey that I looked at, which had the best college towns in America, they quantified this with several different factors that I thought that you just can't get better than in a small metropolitan area. So livability, the idea of livability, whether it's the cost of housing or the cultural experiences or the employment rate. The small metropolitan areas have so many options that are there compared to a large metropolitan area that, you name whether it's on the West Coast, East Coast, or in the middle of the United States. This kind of livability, I thought, was a really important factor that really struck me as I started thinking about attending college in a small metropolitan area. Another factor was the student resident ratio. So in higher education, we talk about the student faculty ratio a lot. Well, the student resident ratio, I thought, was really an important aspect. Again, as several of our presenters have said, that the students are really make up a very vibrant and active part of the very broad and diverse community that a small metropolitan area has. but in a large metropolitan area, you're going to be much more of a raindrop than a gallon of water that in a small metropolitan area. Ruben did a great job talking about cultural offerings that are in a small metropolitan area. I wrote down some of the things in Syracuse, that we have the Syracuse Opera. We have minor league hockey and baseball. We have a zoo. We have the New York State Fair, major concerts and theater. But with just looking at that from a metro area, but many times small metro areas are easy access to things like skiing or hiking or biking, or many different types of diverse activities outside of a city, so that that you don't have to travel very far to get to those areas. So I thought that the cultural offerings was really important. Again, with the student resident ratio, it's that school presence. I think in all of our communities, all of our presenters here would say that the colleges and universities that are in your community have a great school presence, that they're really an important part of the community. So their presence, again, with employers, with government entities, with just being able to close off a street for a college fair, or that homecoming is a big deal in the town. I think that's real important. And then, as so many parents and students are really interested in, is outcomes. And large employers are drawn to a small metropolitan area because of so many of the things that were noted in this survey. So having the great employers for internships, large employers are great, but also a small metropolitan area are going to have entrepreneurs and smaller businesses, where many of our students, and probably more of our students, are doing practical experiences than in the big companies that people will hear about, and be able to do a lot of different types of activities in your internship, instead of being slotted in for one specific activity with smaller employers. So I thought those quantifiable and easily recognized characteristics were really important and really stand out in a small metropolitan area.
Going off Steve's point of livability and kind of tying it to affordability, I know sometimes when you're going to school in a larger metro area, right, oftentimes they might not guarantee housing for all 4 years. When you're in a really huge school, in a really big city, again, you might only have housing for the first 2 years. So I think it also goes back to Lindsay's point of finding out, making sure it's the right fit, making sure that it crosses all the boxes that you're looking for. So if that is something that, is a priority for you, really look into these small metro areas. I know at Holy Cross, we do guarantee 4 years of housing. Because I know we don't want to be in a situation where our students are paying exorbitant amounts of, rents flying through the roof, I think, everywhere right now. So, I mean, that is something that should factor into your equation of where do you want to go, where you're looking into, and then kind of looking at all the variables around you.
And I think housing certainly can be important. That many college students like the idea of living off campus for a year or two when they're at college too, and in their moving away from getting more responsibilities. And again, I think that you have those opportunities specifically in small metro areas, whether it's the affordability of those sort of things, but again, that presence of these colleges and universities in their communities are really important. And I think one of the things that's really an important aspect when you go to visit a college campus is to visit the community around the campus that you'll be attending. So, to get a feel for not just the fringe aspects of what's on the other side of the gate or the wall of the college campus, but just going down to a downtown area and seeing, is this an area that you could see yourself taking advantage of with these sort of opportunities, or talking with students and finding out about how they utilize the area. And again, I would guess that so many of the small metro areas, and specifically in Syracuse, New York, big time concerts come to Syracuse because of the 24 different colleges and universities that are in the area. So you really get a really outstanding opportunity to see some really great resources and people coming into the community because of the vibrancy and the so many activities that are geared for college students.
Love that you said that, Steve, because I think it's so important to make sure that you enjoy the town you're in too, because like I said, that was such a big surprise for me when I moved to Grand Rapids for school, was that I kind of became a part of the Grand Rapids community and I didn't even know it. So much so that, I've been here now for well over 10 years and I just bought a house last year. So that's what is so amazing, is that when you go to like a smaller school, it is really important. I always encourage students to go and I'll give them a local place to eat or a coffee shop to go to so they can understand the environment they're going to be in, not only on campus, but specifically off campus as well, because that is where they're going to be getting internships. That more than likely, that is where they're going to be experiencing so many other things. So that's why I couldn't agree with you more. It's so important to experience both sides of that coin.
The biggest thing, building off of what Steve, Lindsay, and Ruben just said, like you guys have got to go visit these schools. You guys have got to go visit these areas to see if this is going to be the fit for you. It might not, like this, not everybody who sees this video is going to thrive in a small metropolitan area. For some reason, the small podunk town with cornfields stuck out to me, and it was a place that I wanted to go to. No idea why. Even today, have no idea why. But you got to experience these places. Maybe that is a place for some people that they're going to thrive in that small space with no distractions around them, nothing else to do but really study and kind of grind. But other people are going to need those things to do, like go to the Fort Wayne Zoo, go to a Fort Wayne Comets hockey game, walk around downtown Fort Wayne, walk around downtown Syracuse, downtown Worcester, downtown Grand Rapids. Like you guys might need to find that area find the place where you do thrive, because this is basically going to be your home away from home, if not just your home for the next 2 to 4 years that you are a college student. And then if you end up being like Lindsay, the next 10 to 12 years or the whole lifetime, apparently. So anything along those lines, you guys have got to experience these things to make sure that you guys are in the right place, that you guys are in the right frame of mind, where in a place where you are going to feel comfortable and be happy.
I think that it's, again, going back to the Catholic traditions of all of our institutions, that our institutions are really a part of the communities, that they were founded in those small metropolitan areas to serve the residents, to be a part of the community. And so many of the ties are very deep in the community from the Catholic religious traditions, and especially in regard to service. And to say that students from all faiths or no faiths can see the humanity, the opportunities to serve their fellow persons throughout the community. And it's a great living in personal experiences. So many of the institutions really want to be part of the community in many different ways, to help better the community and help the people that are in the community. And again, from a practical standpoint, those skills that are developed through the service opportunities throughout our regions are really, really important lifetime skills. And so whether you want to talk about them as practical for career-related areas, but from this idea of developing the entire person and saying that you have a lot of skills and a lot of abilities to offer others, and it's not all about you. And this is something that's really part of our Catholic traditions.
I love that you said that, Steve, because I think, going to a Catholic school, people ask me all the time, what is going to be, sorry, my puppy wants to say hello as well. You get to be, people always ask, what is the definition of like an Aquinas student? And I say, it's a student who wants to leave the place a better place than how they found it. And I think that is that Catholic base. Absolutely. Oh, Jay, I think you're muted.
Golly gee, I come on right at the end and I'm muted. Here we are. I just want to say thank you all so much, the four of you and your genius, for bringing all of that here and talking about that tonight. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring us to a close. Give me just a moment here. So really, I just want to say thank you for anyone who has joined us live or any of you who are there in the recording world. We really appreciate you being here. When you close out of here, there will be a short 5-question survey. Again, thank you for attending and thank you to our amazing panelists for this evening here. If you're looking for this recording, go ahead and find it at strivescan.com/NCAA, and you all have a wonderful evening. Bye now.
Thank you.